Welcome to Rock the Life, a podcast for fans by fans. I'm Katya.
I'm Amy.
Amy. Okay, so today we have someone that I feel like has been in our lives our entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, as much as we are a fan of him, he is
Mm-hmm.
a fan also of all the bands we love.
Yeah. And he's part
So,
of one of the bands we love.
and he's part of a few of the bands that we love,
Right.
actually. So, without further ado, we are talking about Steve Brown.
The
Steve
one and
Brown,
only.
started playing guitar when he was like 8. Guitar virtuoso, child prodigy, I'd say, born for this. Started the band Trixter as a teenager, shot to success in the
Yep.
80s, early 90s
Yep.
with the band Trixter,
Mm-hmm.
and then went on to be a fill-in guitarist for Def Leppard. He is now producing for Ace Frehley of Kiss. He is, producing our up and coming Kobe Reese, who we just simply adore.
Yeah.
He has a Christmas band that he plays with, and he also has the Tokyo Motor City band. He is on the road with Trixter. He is playing. The man can do everything musical.
You know how when you talk about like little kids and people say, "Oh, I wish I could bottle that energy." Steve Brown has done that. Like, I don't know, he's just like seeing him up on stage and all of that stuff, and even just chatting with him, the man is incredible. I'm just this was you guys just here, Steve. That's
Here, Steve.
just here you go.
Hi, Steve. Welcome to Rock the Life. How are you doing?
How you doing, girls? Great to be here, and everybody out in the worldwide rock intraweb world.
Right. We are. We're so happy to have you. Thrilled,
well, thank you.
actually.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored. I love. At the end of the day, after 40 years of being in Trixter and doing this, I still love doing interviews. I still love, telling stories and, of course, supporting girls like you with great podcasts and, web shows. It's so important, especially for what people call washed up old 80s hairband guys like me.
Now, anybody who would ever say that has not seen you on stage recently. Yeah. I couldn't believe some of those jumps and everything. I was like, Lord have mercy. He's you've done well. You certainly, I would have thought that, even though I know where we are age-wise, we're all around the same age, I definitely would have thought you were much younger, just with all of the energy that you brought to the Trixter show that I saw in Portland. Amazing.
It
doesn't,
well, Amy 50's young, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, look, and I say this all the time, and especially, the funny joke, what I always used to say is, I know we're getting old when PJ turns 50, because PJ and I have known each other. I've known PJ since he was 13 years old and I was 15. We're 2 years apart. So I was like, man, I always used to say back in the day, we know we're really going to be old when PJ's 50. And now I'm about to turn 55 July 13th and PJ is 53 on June 8th. But here's the cool thing. What I say all the time, and I mean it, I believe the second half of our life is going to be even better than the first half.
Okay, you know what, Steve? I heard you say that, and that's exactly what I told Amy. I was like, the first 50 years has been great, like you said. I can't wait to see what the next 50 brings. That is,
yeah, it's true. That was perfect.
I think we're all a lot wiser, and for me personally, I'm 6 years sober now, so my life has completely changed and gotten 1,000% better just because of that. The most important thing, as we get older, forget money, forget success, health is wealth. And that's the most important thing. So I tell everybody, man, do whatever you can, eat right, drink a ton of water, exercise, and just, be the best, because, let's make every day count and get out, get that vitamin D and enjoy every day while we're here.
Yep.
And what Amy and I remember was talked about, once we were getting older, is like making sure we do what things we love too, and keep that like mental health going too so much. Because so much
that's actually the whole history. That's the whole reason we started this show, was because we loved talking about our stories and the adventures that we had to each other, and we thought, you know, we can't be alone in this boat, and we loved the way it made us feel, and we thought other people need to feel this too. And so we've gotten to hear lots of stories from quite a few different people, so it's amazing. It's fun. It's a good time.
And it's important. It's very important that you do that, and sharing these stories. And you know, I love when like, you know, after this, hopefully we'll all get some messages and people go, wow, that's really cool. I learned something and I feel better about my day because of watching this interview. I mean, that's the gift that, you know, you guys do. And I try to do with you.
It makes me, well, and you keep playing music because that's what makes us happy too. So that is.
I have no choice. This is, you know, again,
it's in your blood.
I sold my soul to rock and roll 50 years ago. So it's, you know, there ain't no turning back now.
We have so many questions, but we're going to focus on your fan experiences, because you actually tell a fan story that is one of my absolute favorites of when you were a kid hopping up on stage and playing with Eddie Van Halen. So like going back, like how old were you when you started playing guitar and know like you loved Van Halen?
Well, it was 1978, and it was, you know, a pivotal year in rock and roll. Kiss was arguably the biggest band in the world. So it were two bands that changed my life forever, two guitar players that changed my life forever. It was Kiss and Van Halen, Ace Frehley and Eddie Van Halen. And, you know, immediately after discovering both those bands and my mind being completely blown, my mom, you know, who's still here, Carol Brown, just turned 90 years old. She took me down to the local music store to get guitar lessons. And there's a great story with that. When I went in, we had to rent a guitar for me because I didn't have a guitar at the time. And the guy behind the counter goes, Mrs. Brown, is Steve lefty or righty? And she goes, oh, he's lefty. And the guy goes, it'll be cheaper if he learns how to play righty. So that's why I play guitar righty. You know, economics. You know, my parents weren't rich by any means. I lived a comfortable life as a kid, you know, middle class family, but that was the reason, you know. And PJ the same way. He plays bass, you know, righty like me. He's a lefty. So it was out of, you know, it was just basically out of that. So
you're both lefties?
Yeah, we are. Southpaw.
Wow.
So can you like just flip it over?
I don't know why that. I don't know why that shocks me, but I'm like, I would have not known that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
But it, you know, it all worked out, and then it was my obsession with rock and roll and all things rock was immediate, and from that moment on, it was my school, you know, because I wasn't really a good student. I was a big athlete. I played a lot of sports, which later in life became a part of my live performance, all the scissor kicks and, you know, very much Van Halen influence. Very rock show. But long story short, I became obsessed, and it was every magazine, every record. I would read all the credits. You know, I knew who Kiss's managers were. I knew the booking agent's name. I knew the trucking company. I knew who Van Halen's guitar techs were. You know, those vinyl albums, you know, back when we were kids, and 8-track tapes. But the vinyl records, especially the double gatefold, they had so much information. And I would listen to the record, and it was an educational and religious experience all at the same time. And, you know, it was, you know, and again, every magazine that came out every month, Circus Magazine, Rock Scene, Hit Parader, Guitar Player, Guitar World, I had them all. And that was, you know, my rock and roll education, but I was obsessed with it, you know, and then from there it was learning how to play. And, you know, in the beginning, you know, I was learning from the Mel Bay guitar book. And and I got bored really quick. And I said to my mom, I'm like, Mom, I had Kiss Rock and Roll Over. I said, can you tell Bob, he was my guitar teacher at Musically Yours. I said, can you tell Bob I want to learn some Kiss songs? And my mom, I'll never forget it, came walking in and handed Bob the record. Oh, Bob, could you please teach Stephen some of these songs off this record? And he looked at my mother and like smiled. He's like, sure, Mrs. Brown, we will. So I think the first song I learned power chords was Calling Dr. Love. And, those songs and You Really Got Me and Ain't Talking About Love were like the first couple things that I learned. And, and then it just was there from there on. Then it was getting together. My neighbor up the street, he was my best friend at the time, this kid, Doug Cowie. And I said, we got to start a band. And he didn't play anything. I said, tell your parents to buy you a bass and I'll teach you how to play. And basically what I taught him is, wherever the first finger is on the guitar, that's where the bass note is. So he just followed along. And then there's another kid around the block, this kid I played basketball with, Mike Payne. And we had this little trio. And that was the first time I ever played together, played with a band. And it was one of those life-changing moments. Hearing that thing, we were really rough. But when the moments where we locked in together and it really sounded good, it was, there's nothing like that feeling of playing live music with your friends and musicians and playing the songs that you love. So we played Kiss songs, we played Judas Priest, we played Van Halen, we played Quiet Riot, all the cool bands at the time. And that was the beginning stages of what would become Trixter.
And awesome. And actually there's still some of the coolest bands, so.
Yeah. Sorry. We had a conversation with a guy who at one point was, you might catch on to this in a minute, but we had a conversation with a guy on our show. And he said he was on the phone with some, kid up the street. He's like 13 years old. And he's like, he asked him, he goes, what are you listening to? And he goes, oh, that's me. I'm playing guitar. That's me. And he said, get out of town. And so Pete goes on to say that, he had to come check you out. And he didn't play anything and ended up singing. So
I remember. Yeah, of course. Well, that's how Pete and I, how Pete and I remember. I remember it again like yesterday at my parents' house. And I was playing guitar and he goes, that's not you. And I go, yeah, it is. And he started asking me to play things and I would play it and he couldn't believe it. And, again, that was, the thing. And, at that point, Pete wasn't a singer. And again, like with my friend Doug, I said, well, I'm going to teach you how to sing. And that's what we did. And, it was just the drive and the ambition and, the sort of not a care in the world and there was nothing that was going to stop me from doing what I loved most in life.
I love that drive. I love that.
I would love to see 12-year-old Steve orchestrating everyone. I think that is. And you haven't stopped, right? Yeah. You're still doing it.
No, I still do. And, look, there's a lot of truth to what they say, people don't change. So as much as I try to work on things, there are certain aspects, and PJ knows, we do still have a lot of the same personality tendencies or even personality crisis, somebody would say, that we still to this day, we do because that's what it is. But at the end of the day, it's all like I learned from my father, just do your best at all times to be your best. So give all that you got. And if somebody with you is not giving all they got, you got to let them know. So I was very harsh to Pete, the guys in the band. Pete will tell you, man, it would be like, no, man, you got to sing that better. You got to play that better. And as hard as I was on everybody else, I was 100 times harder on myself, and that's why, by the time I was 12 or 13 years old, I was practicing guitar for 5, 6, 7 hours a day because I just wanted to get good and writing songs. And, and that's one of the most important things that I learned early on. I don't know if anybody even taught it to me, but I learned that the songs are the most important thing. As great as like the guitar playing is and, guitar solos, Eddie Van Halen, look, those songs that he wrote are way better than the guitar solo he wrote. And those songs are way more important than just the guitar solo. And I learned that, just, and Kiss and Van Halen and Cheap Trick was a huge influence on me, songwriting wise. That was, I remember getting the Dream Police record, and that was like, whoa, hearing that. It had a lot of the Beatles elements, which in my family, my house, my parents had the big turntable, record player. So every day it was like happy hour at the Brown house when my parents would get home from work. They'd put on the Beatles, Abbey Road, the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, Neil Diamond, Donna Summer. But one thing on all of those records were great songs. Fleetwood Mac Rumors, Eagles' Greatest Hits, like all this music. And subconsciously, I guess it drilled in my head the importance of songs. And I started writing songs at an early age. And one funny story was I started like basically how I learned to write. And I tell songwriters this all the time: use the bands that you love, use that stuff as a blueprint, follow the roadmap, intro, verse, chorus, guitar, and with lyrics, sometimes you have to look and follow the storyline. But I remember taking the lyrics to Kiss Ladies Room, and that song is very suggestive and definitely not for an 11-year-old to take the words and turn it in. And I remember writing the words and like basically taking those words and changing them a little bit and handing it to my parents. Hey, look at this song I wrote. And it was like, oh, Steven, meet you at that. And it was like Girls' Room or something. And it was like, I know my mother was like looking at my father like, oh my God, we're in trouble now.
She's like, where did he learn this?
We know another song that took lyrics from other songs. It's our theme song.
It's a homage. It's paying homage to everyone.
It is.
Well, Well, yeah, Steve, I'm going to bring it kind of full circle with that. You've had also the honor and privilege, and you're right up there with incredible musicians. How are you keeping we're now in like 2025, and we think back to like the brilliance of Van Halen and for Kiss. So like with the next generation of musicians, how do we keep their music alive so they know about it? Or does it stand on its own?
Well, I think, it stands on its own, the stuff that like that, whether it's, going back to Elvis, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, of course, Queen, Aerosmith, Kiss, Cheap Trick. The key with it all, I think, is as much as we all as songwriters and musicians bitch about Spotify and streaming and, the fact that it's kind of an unfair thing that we don't get paid. But on the other side of it, so many kids discover music because of being on their phone. So look, at the end of the day, hopefully someday that gets worked out to where songwriters like myself get paid a decent, royalty rate. Because anybody who thinks that we get what we deserve is completely crazy. When, and I'm sure you girls know this, that as a songwriter, I basically get every time Give It To Me Good is played on Spotify, I get 4% of a penny. Put that 4% of a penny. When you look at what a penny is, which is 1 cent, I'm only getting 4% of that
per stream.
So it's a little unfair. But on the other side of that, the amount of kids and people all around the world that discover the band, my band, and all of the other great bands, let's say from the 80s and 70s, that to me are, that's still the greatest music ever made, and the most important records that were ever made come from, to me, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And, of course, the 80s, I have a big spot in my heart for everything 80s rock. But, it's that's what it is. And I think, look, it's, the internet is so important, and all these new documentaries that come out, where like my daughter, I have a 25-year-old daughter, she loves Led Zeppelin, and it's because of tribute bands are really important of keeping that alive. And tribute bands have become almost as big as some of the real bands, as far as not in as far as not like a Led Zeppelin, but, I have a couple of my friends that are in big tribute bands. So it's all of these things combined. But, the new Led Zeppelin documentary, that is getting so many kids and so many younger generation kids to go, wow, what is Led Zeppelin? And it's all of that is so important. So, again, I'm a huge technology person. I love it all. I know the blessing and the curse of it, and it's a matter of balancing it. But as far as for me as a business owner with my guitar company and being basically PJ and I manage Trixter and all of our things, we have to do everything ourselves. So social media and doing stuff like your interview that we're doing right now, that's everything. And it's so important. So, just the fact that we're talking about Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, the older bands, Kiss, some little kid is going to see this and go, wow, that's really cool. When I was giving lessons, I got to tell you this, probably about 10 years ago, I had a bunch of young kids that I was giving lessons to, at the school, and they would come here. And I swear to God, I said to some of the kids, they were probably 6 or 7. And I go, you want to learn a Van Halen tune? And I remember one of the kids going to me, what's Van Halen? And I was like, oh my God, how is that even possible?
But if you're 6, it's okay, I think, if you're 6, but not 16.
I know, but like in my world, you can't even say that, I remember when I was 3 years old, the first musical impression I ever had was seeing Elvis on the comeback, his Aloha from Hawaii. And I was I think it was August of 1973. I was a little over 3 years old. I still remember my mom watching it. So I can't even imagine a 6 or 7-year-old kid in this world not knowing who Van Halen was. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. I immediately went on and showed him YouTube and played Eruption for him. The kid was like, what is that?
Yeah.
But again, that's what's so important. So, I don't think, I don't think it'll ever go away. But, the sad reality is we live in a world of what do they say, 7 seconds? It's the TikTok age where scrolling on your phone, if you don't reach somebody within 7 seconds, they're on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. We had a little series, and we might continue it because we've been kind of hooked onto another one, but we had 3 episodes where we featured the next generation of rock, and we had Skylar Jade, we had Kobe, and we had Lex Bauman on. And cool. Those, when you're mentioning Cheap Trick, Lex was all over Cheap Trick being a huge influence for him. He's 16 years old. And of course, Kobe. And so I feel like also having those kids inspire other kids to say, check this out, is also a contributing factor, because we've got so much, when you're talking about technology and the internet and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, all of them are putting out amazing content. And I think it's really it's another contributing factor for grabbing young kids and pulling them in.
Totally. But the one thing that I will say, and Kobe was just here the last 2 weeks, we just did three new songs. And, again, he's what I sell, kids like him and, Skylar, I know. And I don't know the other kid you're talking about.
Lex,
I don't think
I'll send you a link.
But they're the future of rock and roll. And, but the one thing that I stress to everybody, and no matter what content, social media, whether it's posting videos, but still, no matter what, you still have to have great songs. It all comes down to songs. So, and I've had this conversation with kids like shredder guitar players, and they don't even write, some of these people, they don't even write songs anymore. All they do is just want to play, and they're playing Van Halen stuff and playing Randy Rhoads. And I go, that's great, but dude, write, or girl, write your songs. You got to write music, because you're just playing somebody else's stuff, and it's been done 100 times over. So that's, again, if this is another lesson, somebody watching this, focus on writing great songs, because that is the one thing that will never change. a great song. I always believe it. And look, I'm somebody who's been writing songs for 45 years now, maybe even longer. And I still, every day, I have my notebook out, I'm writing songs, working every day, because I still believe I still have more hit songs to write for me, for other people, and more importantly, for the world, because music changes, people's moods and makes the world a better place.
That's awesome. You guys, I'm so sorry. I homeschool my son, and I always told him if there was an emergency, like he was choking or something, to bang. I need to go check on him really quick because I just heard some loud bangs. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Now, how long have you lived in Rome, Italy?
I've been here for 2 years, so it's been like the last week has been a whirlwind. We prepared for the Pope's funeral, so it's just been a busy week, but fun, like interesting, exciting for a lot of things, for better, for worse. It's
that's great. Now, so do you work for like the U.S. government? You work for like Washington D.C.? Oh, I'm going to the White House Monday.
What are you doing at the White House?
Well, my good friend, do you know Don McGahn? He's one of President Trump's attorneys back, a couple of years ago in the first term, and he's a big, he's an attorney down there, and he was the White House counsel in 2016 and 2017. He's a big rock fan. I'm playing the M3 festival this weekend. I'm doing a couple.
I can't believe that's already this weekend.
Yeah. So then we're going Monday, I believe. Me and I'm not going to say who I'm going with, but it's going to be neat. I've never. Are you
gonna play or just do a tour?
Just doing a tour and saying, apparently there's a lot of, as we know that, there's a lot of rock and roll fans in politics, and like everything, whether it's sports, politics, movies, every time I meet somebody, they're like, oh, dude, and I go, no, I'm impressed with you. Don't be impressed with me.
That's awesome.
I'll just tell a cute story. So as we were preparing for the president to arrive, they were like, we should play background music. And someone's like, oh, wait, I have his playlist. It was Guns N' Roses. And I was like, I love this.
That's awesome.
So that was our welcoming music. That was our welcoming music playlist. Okay.
That's awesome. Okay. I am so sorry. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay?
Yeah. Usually I'm like, if I'm upstairs and I'm recording, if you have an emergency and you can't yell, you stomp. And he's never done it before. So I just heard that and but you know what? He couldn't find a charger and he was mad.
I do the same thing.
We're all fine. But I was like, buddy, I was like, it's fine.
I was going to jump to the M3 Music Festival. Yeah. For Amy and I, we keep talking about how we want to go, and we're going to make it one year. So tell us. So are you playing as Trixter, or who are you playing for the festival? Like, there's so many options.
I know. Yeah. So PJ is out on tour with Fozzy, with Trixter. The unique thing is PJ and I, for the last 30 plus years, 37 years that we've been playing together, whatever, we always come back to Trixter while we do other things as well. And so he's out with Fozzy, with Chris Jericho and the boys now. Trixter got an offer to play the show, M3 this year, but we couldn't do it because PJ was out on tour. So the promoter said, hey man, I'd love to have you come and do some acoustic stuff, do the pre-party. So Pete Evick, who's Brent Michaels' guitar player, Pete and I are doing this Thursday, we're doing the pre-kickoff party. And so we're doing that. And then I'm doing another thing Saturday night as well.
That's so fun. Oh, so we looked at it so hard.
We looked at it. We were trying to put that together to coordinate to get there. So are you going to, since you're there a few days, are you going to watch the other bands play?
Yeah. I'm actually going to be staying all weekend. And all my friends are there. Fun. I mean, when I go to one of these festivals, we all laugh because we've all known each other for decades. So it's like what we say, it's a rock and roll high school reunion. We're all together, and I just love being there. And one of the promoters is a dear friend of mine. I mean, they're all friends of mine. So I'm really looking forward to getting down there and hanging with everybody and, just enjoying the show. Can't wait to see, David Lee Roth and Piercy and DeMartini and, my 10,000 volts brother, Ace Frehley, and his band are playing on Sunday, and Slaughter. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Are you going to hop on stage to play with Ace?
Yeah, you never know. But, sorry.
You spoiled something.
You got sidetracked.
It'll air after.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's right. We were talking before. You asked me about the Eddie Van Halen when I jumped up on stage with Eddie back on the OU812 tour, 1988.
Oh, man.
And the story with that is our old manager with Trixter, he had a ticket scalping business or whatever. He was a ticket broker. So he got us, it was like for my friend, I don't know whose birthday it was, but somebody's birthday, got us front row tickets for that show. And so we were in the front row, and it was like literally, I mean, if this was the barricade, like right here, we were like, my foot was up on the barricade, and like Eddie was literally like 5 feet away from me the whole show. And it was the greatest night, and we were just having so much fun. And the next thing you know, Gus, our drummer, he was with us, and he looks at me and he goes, I'm going to jump up on stage, because the barricade was right there, and he jumped right up. He went up to Alex's drums, jumped up on the riser, hit the cymbal, and then Eddie's tech, this guy's Zeke at the time, came and grabbed him. And 5 minutes later, he comes back to the seats. Like, he didn't get beat up. So that put it in my head. And I was like, oh, man, this seems like this is easy. So I said to my buddy, and my buddy Jim, who was with us, and I go, dude, I think I got to jump up there and try to play Eddie's guitar. He goes, you damn right you do. So it was the end of the show. It was rock and roll. They finished the song, and he just grabbed me and he literally pushed me up. People fell, PJ and the guys. And the next thing you know, I'm up on stage and I walk right up to Eddie, and he could tell that I wasn't a threat. And I looked at him, I go, let me play your guitar. And he lifted his arms up, and I just went in behind him. And the video, it's up on, you can see it on YouTube or on my Instagram. And I started playing some Eddie licks, and Sammy and Mike were watching, and they heard it. And I remember on the video, Sammy goes, that's one bad mofo. And then lo and behold, Eddie's tech came and grabbed me, and it was I didn't get beat up, thank God. And it was one of the coolest nights, one of the coolest experiences of my life. And then, a couple years later, when I became friends with Ed and the Van Halens, we were backstage at the Meadowlands right when I got home from the first Trixter tour, and I'm in the dressing room, and Eddie tells Sammy, he goes, yeah, man, this is my friend Steve. This is the guy who jumped up on stage with us last year at the party. And Sammy goes, son of a sitch, that was you? Oh, yeah, man. And, so we always had a good laugh about that. But, again, it's like never miss an opportunity. I mean, I know in this day and age, it's kind of a rough thing, when you jump up on stage with people, and, there's definitely been some tragedies that have happened with people getting on stage and terrible things happening. But, that was definitely one of those moments where it was like, it's now or never, and I didn't know that, about 3 years later, I'd be friends with Eddie Van Halen, sitting in the dressing room with him and Sammy laughing about it. But, it's certainly, and how many years later, we're still talking about it.
That is so, well, now, have you ever had a fan jump off on stage with you to do that? I mean, it's harder now. I know that you might be the reason that we have barricades now, but it's okay.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I mean, and we were always, that was always one of the things we had it on the first Trixter tour. And whenever people would come up on stage, if someone was crazy enough to go to that much effort, and again, I think we all have a pretty good judge of who's cuckoo crazy and who's not. If someone is cool and they just come up and they're jumping up, I've seen that. I've seen Van Halen do that numerous times where they have guys jump up a stage, take the bow with them. And that was always our thing, man. Come on up. It's a party. Don't hurt anybody. We tell the security people, don't beat them up. Let them come up. If girls ran up on stage, want to give us a hug, I mean, it's all, that's the beauty of a live rock and roll show.
Yeah.
As long as everybody's respectful.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of full circle moments, we have a Warrant episode where we actually talk about the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tour because we were at the San Jose show at Great America.
Yes.
And we actually, we actually got to meet everybody in the band. We don't have a picture with you. So the next time we're all at the same place, we'll have to grab a photo and make up for that. But do you remember? Okay, so Pauly Shore was at that show and he did the comedy in the opening. Do you remember that catcher's mitt thing that he wore, the catcher's gear?
Yes.
Because he was mocking Axl Rose.
So we were the girls. We ended up meeting them and all of that earlier in the day. We went and bought that for him. He was like, hey, do you guys know this place? You guys know where there's a sporting goods store? And we were like, yeah, sure. He goes, this is what I need. And he goes, do you have tickets to the show? That's actually, we met Firehouse at the bus, but that's actually how we got backstage. Yeah. He goes, you go do this for me and I'll give you, he upgraded our tickets and passes.
That's true.
And so that was part of our Blood, Sweat, and Beers.
Yeah. Paulie was, I think at the time he was managed by Warrant's manager, and they were going to make, like, he was making a record. And he was out with us for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. We had so much fun. The Weasel.
Hysterical. Love him.
You know what's great about that show, though? I remember, that was the first time that we met Eric Martin.
Yeah.
Eric was at that show.
We have pictures,
Yeah, we were huge Mr. Big fans, especially Pete. Pete was like, Eric Martin was his favorite singer. We listened to that record, Lean Into It, every day from the day it was released on the tour bus. And then Eric came to the show, and it was like meeting, he's like our older brother, and we immediately bonded like right there and then, and we've been all friends ever since. And but that show was that there were a lot happened at that show. So San Jose, Great America, I remember it.
Yep. That was part of our
that is
history.
Right. That's part of our history. So you know what, Steve, you have had like one of the coolest rock and roll lives like I can even think of from anyone. So with everything you've done, who do you still want to work with?
Oh my God. I mean, so many, I mean, again, at this point in my life, I'm really, really been focusing on trying to become more of a producer. As much as I love playing live, I want to definitely get in with some of the younger guns in the rock and roll world, producing and writing, because as much as I love writing songs for, let's say, Trixter or Solo or whatever it is, or even with Ace, there's only so far that's going to go. But I would love to find a young band. I'm writing with a band in Nashville now called Hippies and Cowboys. And they're kind of like a Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers, Black Crowes, but again, that's the focus. So, but I would still love to work with some of the greats. I mean, one of my dreams, of course, I would love to work with John Bon Jovi, and first off, be able to work with John and help get his voice back. But as a song host, as a co-writer and producer, to maybe get make a Bon Jovi record that harkens back to, the Slippery When Wet, New Jersey era, which for me personally, that's my, the 80s Bon Jovi was my favorite. And Keep the Faith. I love Keep the Faith. And but Bon Jovi's definitely one of, the list. And John has been a friend. He was the first supporter of Trixter back in the day. And I love him, and I would love to work with him. And of course, a dream would be, I would love to produce and write with the Def Leppard guys, maybe do something with them. But, everybody's got their own sort of camps that they work with. So I'm just, happy. I had a song come out on the new Corey Marks record, and Corey Marks is a Canadian country artist. So I co-wrote with him, and JT Harding, who's a great Nashville songwriter, had a bunch of number ones. So, again, getting back to what I said before, that when I was a kid, that drive and that love of music and making music and reading about it, it's still there. It's never changed. And again, now that I'm 6 years sober, that passion and that drive is even more intense for me.
Wow.
And I think as a musician, a songwriter, a singer, a player, a performer, I'm better than I've ever been in my life. And that's something that I'm most proud of, and of course being, most importantly, clear-headed,
And
that's huge.
so how do you find, we're saying the difference is we're no longer reading an album and reading the back and knowing everything about it. How do you find new music, or how do you find new music that's inspiring you? Do you do a lot on YouTube or Spotify?
Yeah, I mean, luckily, look, man, most of my friends are all music fans, so we do the thing where we'll send a YouTuber a link, and say, hey, check this band out. Again, that's the beauty of what you can do with this. It's instant, where you hear a great band. There's this band out of Australia that I love, Sisters Doll, and they become friends of mine. But they put out a new record, and a friend of mine, I think it was maybe, I don't know if you know Mitch LaFon, but Mitch LaFon posted on his story, he goes, dude, this new Sisters Doll song is awesome. I forget what the name of the song was, but I listened to it. I'm like, God, this song is really great. And I reposted it. And again, that's how we find out. And again, whether it's new bands, old bands, I mean, my guilty pleasure, of course, I'm a huge 70s soft rock fan. So I love yacht rock and all. Yeah. And there's so many bands and so many artists I never heard of. And I hear these songs. And I'm like, where did this come from? And how did I never hear this?
Do you know who's exposing me a lot to that? Okay, so it's another little plug. We interviewed Helen Collin. Was it last week? And she's got right. She's got a station on Station Head. Yep. And we've been listening to the Shout Out, and she's got it all going on. And I'm like, how some of it was, there was a Jackson, I think it was a Jackson 5 song while I was getting, yeah. And I was like, what was it? It was like, Blame It on the Boogie. And I was like, how do I not know this? And just getting ready, I was rocking out. Yeah.
And that was after she played Journey, Don't Stop Believin', which of course we were belting out. And then I was like,
phenomenal. It was phenomenal. It was so great.
Well,
so she's the one who's doing that for me. Yeah.
And Station Head's a new one for me too, or newer one for me, I'd say, as of 2025 to listen to find music.
Helen is a dear friend, and she is a music lover and supporter, and again, it's like what you guys all do. It's so important, and again, I'm such a supporter of it in the sense of, like when we did the launch for the last Ace Frehley record that I did, 10,000 Volts, I got a lot of my friends who didn't have many followers, but I asked Ace's label and I said, hey man, this is really important. Let's get with, the newer people and younger. Let's help these people out. And man, a lot of these, younger channels, I wish I was able to get you guys an interview, but Ace did all these interviews and it really helped them. And it's so important because, even if you reach one person, that one person is going to maybe go buy a record or go to a show and buy a t-shirt, and I make a point at every Trixter show. I stop the show and I say, listen, this is the reality. I talk about the songwriter and I said, the greatest thing you can do to help us, instead of going buying 2 more drinks, go to the merch stand for all the bands and buy either a t-shirt, a CD, buy something to help support us, because it's harder now than ever to tour and to get from city to city. So again, it's all of us working together. That is the only way that's going to save the great music business, if you will.
Yep. Merch has more of an income stream nowadays than the music in and of itself.
Yes,
it's crazy.
I mean, years ago we used to go on tour to support our record, to promote our record. Now we make a record to promote our tour.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
But either way, and the cool thing is, what I've seen, PJ and I out on the Trixter tour that we've been doing for the last, since last year, the Spirit of 1989, where we're actually touring. We'll do 3 weeks here, 4 weeks, and we are selling a lot of vinyl. We sell a lot of physical product. So that's good because fans and, whether they listen to it or not, I know a lot of people, they buy the new, the Trixter new audio machine, double vinyl, and they go, I don't even have a record player. I just want to have it because it's such cool packaging. And whatever you do.
Guilty.
Yeah, I don't have a record player either, but you could see my records.
Well, that's, but you know what? You just get a record player, get one off Amazon. It's so cool. There's nothing like listening
my
to
kids have them,
records.
so my kids have them, so I could peek into my kids' room. But I'm like, don't want them to hurt my records.
I'm still buying CDs because I can't get rid of my CDs either. So I still have it. I love the physicalness of music now too. That is
always
nice.
Yes.
Open it up, you get to see I mean.
Yeah.
Well, because think artwork, right? Like album artwork was like, for me, I loved it. I love the visualness of it. I loved seeing that all. And
well, we're doing, on that note, just to let all the Trixter fans know, it's getting made right now. We're doing a double vinyl version of Here, our second record. So it's going to come out probably, over the summer. And it's like limited edition, but I did, PJ and I did the packaging. I did it with my partner, Adam Reaver. We have our own record label, Polymer Records from Spinal Tap.
Awesome.
And
but
we're really psyched. I remastered the record. It sounds awesome.
Wow.
And but again, there is a resurgence in vinyl, and people, at the end of the day, people still love product. And for me, and I guess you guys are the same, there's nothing like whether it's a CD or, I'm big, what I love? I love 8 tracks.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. My mom still has her 8 tracks. Yeah. Oh my word.
I don't own a single 8 track.
Yeah.
They're cool. What's funny? The first time I ever heard Van Halen, when I heard Van Halen 1, was on an 8 track. My neighbor up the street gave it to me, and he said, "You're going to like this. Gene Simmons discovered them." And, that was Van Halen.
Full circle. How full circle.
Weird because I didn't know 8 tracks and you could only fit X amount of songs, so they sometimes had to change the song order. So when I finally got to the album, I was like listening to it, I'm going, no, the songs are out of order. It's a weird, but again, it's all part of the magic of rock and roll and being a music fan.
I have a question for you, Steve. I'm going to take it back to Def Leppard, just because our Def Leppard story is what started this entire podcast and sharing our adventures around that. And so, emotionally for you, getting up on that stage and standing in Vivian's spot and playing those shows that you played, how was that for you? Were you just sitting there how is this happening, or is it something that you came to the point where you're like, wow, I've worked really hard and this is really cool?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, my friendship with those guys, with Phil especially, I'd known them since I was 17 years old. So, again, they were like my older brothers. I met them on the Hysteria tour. And then when Trixter started taking off, their manager at the time, the guy Peter Mensch, Q Prime, he was the guy, he was like Trixter's godfather. He was the guy helping us and helping our managers. So we were backstage. I was backstage all the time at, whether it's Metallica, the Def Leppard Hysteria tour shows when they did 3 nights at the Meadowlands in 1988. So, those friendships and, Phil and I have been friends ever since, and he's like, again, he's my older brother, I mean, I'm closer to him in certain ways than I are with my own brothers, which is crazy to say, but it's true in the sense. But when it happened in 2013, of course Vivian got diagnosed with cancer. Phil was he told the guys, and their tour manager at the time was like, oh, Steve is the guy. they were like, oh yeah, it's great. He's part of the family already. I mean, I had been to every tour multiple times, and, I was friends with those guys. I would go in the dressing room, like when they were getting out of the shower, I'd be there. I'd be the only one there with them. That's how close we were. It was like, so it was natural that, and Phil was, more than my guitar playing, and I've talked about this, I got the gig because of my vocals, to be able to sing high, as Joe says, oh, Steve can do all the mutt parts, thing, because that's what Vivian sings. But, again, most importantly, it was to help my friends, and still to this day, I'm always there for them, and I will always be there. And, and filling in for Vivian, I mean, that was, it was a job that needed to be done. And Joe was the guy who put it so bluntly. He said, and I kind of said to him the first run I did in 2014, it was a tense time. It was kind of like, man, I'm sorry to, that I have to do this, and that Vivian's sick and whatnot. And he goes, Steve, don't worry about it, man. He's like, somebody's got to do it, and it might as well be you. And I was like, you know what, Joe? Thanks for that. You damn right. And so that's it. And, and then 2018, when I played and had to stand in for Phil, that was even more of a crisis situation that I helped out with. And, again, to be there for my brothers and to help those guys out. And they've been so great to me, and to get that opportunity. And most importantly, to fill in with a band that was one of my favorite bands, again, the biggest influences to my musical career: Kiss, Van Halen, Cheap Trick, Def Leppard, and Bon Jovi. So those bands, and to be able to play with them, getting back to what you said, of course, by the time I did my first show, which was Wembley Stadium, that NFL kickoff thing, 90,000 people, like, no, it couldn't have been a club gig to get out to the Lions. But by that point, I was out on tour with them all summer on the Kiss and Def Leppard tour in 2014, doing sound checks, getting ready, So by the time I did that gig, I was so rehearsed and so mentally ready that people ask me all the time, were you nervous? I was like, no, I've been working my whole life to be in that moment, when they say, like, whether you're an athlete or whatever, you work for that time. If you're a quarterback in the NFL and it's 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl, you have worked your whole life to get there, and you're going to throw that touchdown pass. Let's hope. But, thankfully everything went great. And the guys, again, being that I'm so comfortable with them and, they're like family, it wasn't a stressful situation at all. And, the coolest thing about it, which I still get to this day, is like, dude, I was at those shows, and the coolest thing was you didn't look like a fill-in. You looked like you were natural. And, and that's the highest compliment, and Phil has said this numerous times, and he said it to the guys before he left when I had to fill in for him. He said, there's only one person on the planet who could do this job right now, and that's Steve. And that was one of the most meaningful things that Phil has ever said. That was giving the blessing, if you will,
that is
everybody.
Beautiful.
And I went out the next day, and that was 24 hours notice. The Vivian shows I basically had a year before that I was learning 40 or 50 songs. But the Phil situation in 2018, that was 24 hours.
Learning
and
wild.
As soon as I got that blessing from him, everything changed in my head. And I'm like, not only am I'm going to do the best I can times 100. And the next day, Allentown, Hershey, Pennsylvania, it was Hershey, Pennsylvania Stadium. I went out and played the show, and it was, I think it was pretty damn good. And, again, most importantly, to help the organization, but most importantly, help my friends.
And I have to ask, did your mom go to any of the shows?
Yeah, my parents actually, they flew out in 2014 when I did my first round. I did like in November, late October, November, I did 4 casino shows. Those were the first like official shows. My whole family, some of my neighbors from up the street, they all flew out to LA. It was my mom and dad's first time ever going to California, going to West Hollywood. We stayed at the famous Sunset Marquis Hotel. And this is a cool story. You'll love this. In 2014 was right when Uber and Lyft were coming in, the ride share. And like, I just learned how to do it on my phone. And I sent it to my dad. I'm like, Dad, you got to see this thing. And I was taking my mom and dad. We had a day off. And I was taking my mom and dad to the Rainbow for pizza. I said, we got to go to the world famous Rainbow. Yeah. And I said, Dad, Mom and Dad, you got to see this thing. I'm going to get us a car. We're going to walk up to Sunset Strip. And I'm going to press my phone that we need a car. And a car is going to be here in like 2 minutes. My dad was like, wow, that's unbelievable. And I swear to God, girls, I hit my phone and there was a car right on Sunset Strip in less than 30 seconds.
Wow.
And we got in. We went to the Rainbow, and my dad's like, well, how do you pay? Do you give him cash? I go, no, it's all on the phone.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was the first time my dad, and at that point, I'm going to say he was 78 at that point. My dad is still, my parents are both 90 and they're doing great. My dad, is an iPhone to pays all of his bills, and he's still, but I show him certain things, on the phone, and he just goes, Steve, I can't believe the world, when he was a kid, technology, he was, when he grew up, the first TV the screen was this big. And the console,
but the console
yeah, he got his first TV, I think, when he was probably 5 or 6 years old, and to see the technological advances, he just shakes his head like, Steve, I can't believe certain things, and but that they came to that show, and we were backstage, after the show, my whole family and everybody came in, my daughters, my wife and my kids and my neighbors were all in, because these were casino shows, so it really wasn't a lot of people there. So we're in the dressing room and having, I was still drinking at the time. We're having some drinks, me and Joe, and Joe goes to my dad, oh, Mr. Brown, would you like some honey whiskey? And he went and poured shots for my mom and dad, and I still have pictures and we have video of Joe. I mean, again, the Def Leppard guys, they were raised by great families, their parents. So they were so welcoming and they're so nice. You get past the rock star bullshit. And I got to say, 98% of the rock stars that I've met, they're all great people, deep down, and people, we all have our flaws and stuff like that. But, when Ace would come here, when we were working on the record, and I'd cook him dinner and he'd be doing magic tricks for my daughter, and he's a dad. They're all, the Def Leppard guys are all parents. The Van Halens, Alex is still a dear friend of mine, and and I wish Ed was here, but Ed was the nicest guy. He would, when Van Halen would play, I'd bring my whole family. Like, I'd call him like, dude, I need 10 tickets tonight, whatever you need, and he'd say hi to everybody. I still bust my nephew's chops. He was backstage at one of the shows. I think it was Jones Beach. And, I'm sitting with Eddie talking, and I call my nephew. He was probably 10 at the time. I go, Mike, come here. My brother Mike's son. Mike Jr. I go, Mike, come over here. I want you to meet Eddie Van Halen. And he just walked up to me like he could care less. He shook his hand and he, just go. And I like looked at my brother. I go, he has no idea. He just shook hand with the greatest guitar player and a rock and roll legend.
Wow. Okay. As a fan, I have to tell you, your parents got like the dream. It is okay. So as a fan, when you meet like your faves or whatever, you always kind of have like, wouldn't it be so cool? So when I saw Def Leppard in Atlanta on this last tour, I took a sign for Joe and it said, Joe, perfect host. And I had a shot glass. I had a little red Solo cup because, he always takes those shots backstage during the show. And I was like, come on. That would be one of my biggest like dreams is to take we don't drink a lot either, but I would take a shot with Joe Elliott. That would be amazing.
I don't know if I need to do a shot.
Yeah, Bushmills and Jameson, and oh man, he told the first time I met David Coverdale at M3 in 2019. I was playing with Danger, and Whitesnake was on the bill, and I had never met David. So Joe said they set it up so I would be able to go back and say hi to David. And Joe told me, he goes, when you meet David, make sure you ask him where the honey whiskey is. So I went in, I go, Joe, I go, David, where's the honey whiskey? And he goes, I bet Joe told you to say that. But yeah, just again, and girls, me, I am so thankful, and I say it all the time. And for PJ and I, we've lived like this rock and roll fantasy life, where we have become, get to work with and become friends with our idols. And, what you guys asked before, was there a moment? There's always a moment when we're sitting here with Ace working on his record, no matter what. I'm a professional and this is what I do, and I don't get intimidated. But I got to admit, there were moments where I'd be like, holy shit, I'm producing and writing with Ace. He's doing fucking guitar solos right here. Here's one of his guitars. Here's one of his guitars. And like, I'm sitting there and I'm going, it's fucking Ace Frehley. I remember like taking a picture and sending it to PJ going like, dude, I can't believe this is happening now. Same thing. Whether it was, playing volleyball with Eddie Van Halen and Valerie Burton out Valerie at their beach house. Yeah. Like, are you kidding me? And then, Def Leppard, like I've said it 100 times. When I played Photograph with them the first time, and I was in Vivian's spot, and I've started, and I look over and I see Joe, Sav, and Phil, and I look back at Rick, I go, this kid from Paramus, New Jersey, I'm playing Photograph with Def Leppard. I'm in the band right now playing it. I mean, my mind always, it never gets lost on me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we love about this show, being for fans, by fans. We get to express those moments because those are very much like, a lot of times, you're talking about professional and we're like, hey, we're talking to Steve Brown.
But you're right. Amy,
so we have those moments too.
But you know what? Also, then you look at like some of the young guys, like the people now talk like that about you. Like, oh my God, I'm playing with Steve Brown. So now this other group of musicians that are now younger than us feel the same way about you. So I think that's
and to be honest with you, and I know like this is our show, but I'm going to say people, the same musicians roughly around the same age, because my husband was incredibly jealous that we had this interview, and he wants to see your guitars. He wants to hold it. He wants to feel it. He's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you'll just have to watch.
Well, again, that's, I love that. And, anytime you're in New Jersey, you guys are more than welcome to come to the house.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I have so much cool stuff here. My studio, like, it's my life, all my memorabilia and stuff. And, it's a reminder every time you always have to look at your accomplishments and go, you got to be proud of that. I have my gold records over here. I have, a thing right here. This is, let me see, point the camera and see if you can see it. It's all, all my Eddie Van Halen stuff. And great stuff, memories of him. And, so the point of it
beautiful
is
guitars
that,
around you.
Yeah, all of it. And, and now, all these years later, now I have my own guitar company. Like it's,
Yeah, show us those guitars.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, I showed you the other one. This is my SBS showroom series. This is a one of a kind. This is my special studio guitar. Has a special bridge on it to where it never goes out of tune. But these are my SBS Steve Brown sound guitars that they sell online for $359, and
that's incredible.
They're incredible guitars. The value is unprecedented, and I couldn't be more proud. But again, this was something, another dream come true. I never would have dreamed, again, that 12-year-old kid from Paramus, New Jersey, starting to play rock and roll, that, at 50-something years old, I have my own guitar company now.
Okay, so which guitar are you playing this weekend at M3? Which ones?
Oh yeah.
Well, this weekend I'm going to be doing mostly acoustic gigs. So I'm going to be using, I think, this one, which I used a lot on the Trixter acoustic tour.
Look at that.
You know, this is like a
cool
acoustic sonic. This is a.
Beautiful.
It's a little attitude. Oops. Hey, baby.
I knew that was coming.
Yep.
I love it. Tell me what's your name. I can't sing, so I shouldn't try.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's so awesome. Oh my gosh. Steve, this has been phenomenal. This has been so fun. I really hope, like, after M3 in a little while, you'll come back and update us on all the things going on, because this has been really great. And I'm going to take you seriously. Okay, so a couple things. I'm going to send you Lex's link. You're talking about songwriting. Yeah. This kid is 16. He does have a team of songwriters, but he's definitely involved with that team.
Amazing.
Great songs. Great songs.
And that's what,
he is young, and it's so catchy.
So Cougar Mellencamp, like, also just kind of like that feeling too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh gosh, I think you're really gonna like him, and he's got this whole look and a style. He's I think you'll like him.
I can't wait. What is his? What's his name?
Lex Bauman.
Bauman.
Bauman. Bauman. If you go to Instagram, you can find him right there.
What? Lex Bauman. Let's see. Lex Bauman guitar, right?
Yeah.
Follow back. Oh, cool. Where's he from?
Ohio.
Oh, cool. Well, the first thing I clicked on, look, it's you guys.
Oh, that's nice. How funny is that? Yeah.
And that was not planned.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. That's amazing. And then we're going to take you up on it, because at some point, Katya and I are going to be on the East Coast together, and we're going to be doing M3 and even maybe the Mountain Music Festival, if we can work that out. So
that's our halfway point. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely when we're out there, we'll try to connect and see where you are, and if we can catch up.
I can't wait to hear how M3 goes. I'm looking forward to finding everyone's videos that they post about it.
I know.
Oh, well, there'll be a lot. So I'll be hanging, with Tommy London and Mark Striegel, all the XM guys.
Yes.
All the bands. It'll be fun, But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and it's always, again, those festivals are so important to keep, again, what we were talking about before, keeping rock and roll alive and well. And the M3 has been one of the most important ones. And then in September, Trixter, we're making our triumphant return to Rocklahoma. The first time we played.
September. Oh, what are the dates?
I think it's August 20 something. It's August. We're there on like the Thursday night, like the kickoff. It's us, Dee Snider, Lita Ford. So whatever that last Thursday of September of August.
August. Okay. The very first. That's another one. The very first music festival we talked about on this show was Rocklahoma. So we're gonna have to try for that. Ooh, I got excited. We're gonna have to try for that one. I'm like,
do it. Yeah.
We okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, Steve, thank you. And I have to say, thank you so much for the music. Thank you for everything that you keep doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Love it.
So awesome. All righty.
Means a lot. Thank you, girls, for having me, and good luck with everything. God bless your friends and family and everybody out there.
You too.
Intraweb world, keep the rock alive. Support all these bands. Support these great girls with their show.
Thank you, Steve. Until next time. Bye.
And there will be a next time.
Next time. Oh, yep. Don't forget us.
Because we will forget
you. I love it so much.
Oh my God.
I love this show.
So much fun. So much fun.
Yeah. Just all the things. And Katya, Steve Brown invited us to his house. Hey, hey, we're going to go see the studio.
You know what? Actually, I'll be flying over the States in 24 hours. Amy, what you up to? Let's go.
Okay, right. Like, okay, how many times have we had this invitation? And how many times? Katya, let's say yes. Let's say yes.
Jersey bound.
This time.
You know, as I'm saying, it's like all our connections keep leading us back to New Jersey.
To New Jersey. We'll go see Kobe. And we'll see Steve Brown's studio. We'll stop, and Lord have mercy, we will party with Amy. Whew, I don't know if I'll survive that one. But girl can get down, dude.
Then we might have to do those shots of honey bourbon.
She's so fun, though. Oh my word!
Oh my God! Yeah, we'll have to have this like Rock the Life New Jersey party. I'm picturing it. So will it be M3? We'll somehow have to get Rocklahoma M3 Rock the Life New Jersey party. I think it's a plan.
I've got it. Rock the Life needs to go on tour.
We're just gonna pick up
all
our favorite people along the way.
Yeah. Well, it's not like we make any money from YouTube or anything yet, so I don't know how we'll pay for it, but let's go. Live from M3. Hey, live from Rocklahoma. Hey, live from Steve Brown's studio. Hi. How's it going? Love you. Bye-bye. Don't forget, like and subscribe.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Buy some merch so we can go on tour. That's true. RTLmerch.com.
For our Rock the Life tour. We don't play guitar. Hey. We don't sing.
But we talk. Oh my gosh. I love you so much. Okay. All right. No, for real. Professional. 4 fans, 5 fans. That's why we did it this way, so that we could do just this. Yeah. Because who doesn't in real life want to do just this?
Amy, me too. Like, my weeks just get better and better. Steve is he's so authentic. He's so genuine. Steve is the reason we have big barricades at concerts now, so they don't jump on stage and steal the guitar out of Eddie Van Halen's hand.
Or actually wrap himself around it and play it
wrap himself around and play the guitar. So,
can you imagine Eddie's hands up here and Steve's underneath? Holy cow!
It is little baby Steve doing that. I love it. Well, and Amy, as I was talking about Steve's accolades at the beginning of the episode, I forgot to mention he happens to have his own guitar brand too, and guitars on top of that.
I know. I know. It's all just mind-boggling, and we're so thankful to Steve for coming on the show and just giving us the opportunity to. And I love that. My favorite part is when he actually got into the parts where he starts talking about, just like we do as fans, how it feels in some of these moments, and everybody that we've talked to has them, professional or not. It's just I'm going to keep my composure. I'm professional. I'm going to do that. But inside you're and I love that he shared that with us. That's my favorite part of this episode.
The one thing for Steve, another highlight is he's done great for the first 50 years, and I can't wait for the next.
Right.
Truly, he's gonna,
Yeah, and he's one of those that reminds you that, no matter where you are in your life isn't over. You know what I mean? There's so much more. And I think
just getting better.
I think that's so important to remember. So, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe so that we can encourage you to remind you that there's always more. And, if you have a story to tell, we haven't said this in a while. If you have a story to tell, please reach out. Send us an email at amy.rockthelife@outlook.com. You can get a hold of us on Instagram at RockTheLifeGirl. I check those requests all the time. So make sure that you're following there.
No, and and if anyone has stories from M3 this year, please let us know. I want to relive them with you.
Right. Oh my gosh. And then Rocklahoma. Have you seen the lineup for Rocklahoma? This is the first thing I'm hearing about Rocklahoma this year. What the heck?
Amy.
And then Paramandra's playing in Oregon. what is it? And I bet it's the same weekend. No, end of September. Ooh. Okay. So, all right. Now that we've got our hyperspazzed fandom out, did I say like and subscribe already? I said send us an email.
You did. So with that, Amy, I'm just going to say, I don't want you to forget.
Don't forget. Rock the life.
Rock the life.
I think I have enough energy now. Like, he's contagious. He's contagious.
Oh my God. And again, I didn't want to say it, but I wanted to. Like, he also looks amazing.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, how are you 50? What? No, he looks like he's 35.
He's fit he takes himself seriously of what he's doing. Yeah. He looks amazing.
Amazing. You should have seen him on stage. If you have the chance to see Steve in any of the things that he's doing, be it with Trixter on tour or goodness knows any of the number of things, go. Just go. You won't be disappointed, I promise.
Lucky. No, just, I want to support him as much as I can because I want his music to just keep growing. So,
Crazy.
Okay, babes.
Okay. I love you.
That was fun. Love you.
That was a blast. Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.